So we have a few lightning talks, which are videotaped, and these are from our speakers, some of whom have participated in previous blockchain workshops, to give them a chance to talk to you from remotely. So we're going to start out with Don Tapscott. He was our keynote speaker at Stanford back in March. He is, although he denies he's a futurist, a lot of people put him in that camp, an incredible speaker and human being. And then we're going to follow with Bruce Schneier, who many of you guys know is a titan in the cryptography world as a security technologist. And then Elaine, who is part of the group of universities that received funding to do academic research into blockchain from Cornell and University of Maryland. And then last but not least, Jutta Steiner, who is with Provenance, with Ethereum, and who has begun to build a supply chain authentication platform on top of Ethereum. So we'll start with
My name's Don Tapscott, and I'm sorry I can't be with you at the blockchain workshops, but I would like to thank Primavera for inviting me to do this short little video chat with you. Why are you here? Why are you interested in this whole topic of digital currencies, Bitcoin, blockchain technologies? Well, let me just give you my perspective for me, what's driving me. Many people, if you flash back 20 years, were very hopeful about the internet and the web. We thought that it might enable us to have a truly peer-to-peer kind of society. That rather than the old media that were centralized in one way and one size fits all and controlled by powerful corporations or advertisers, this new media would be distributed. It would be one to many. It would be many to many. And as such, it would have this awesome neutrality. It would be what we wanted it to be. Well, lots of good things have happened, for sure. I mean, we have wonderful commons created products like Wikipedia and Linux. We have opportunities now for grandparents to communicate with their grandchildren. The web has changed many, many things. But overall, as Tim Berners-Lee said to me recently in a conversation, this wonderful peer-to-peer technology got laid on top of a society that was anything but distributed or empowering or peer-to-peer. And what's happened is that powerful forces have captured a lot of the internet, and they're gaining asymmetrical benefit from it. And this has created a real paradoxical situation vis-a-vis technology and society. Consider prosperity. We have growing wealth creation for sure, but we also have growing social inequality throughout the developing world. How can this be? We have the riches of all this data being created. Data is becoming a new asset class, probably more important than previous assets, like even land or physical plants, resources, perhaps even money. I mean, 20 years ago, Walter Wriston said information about money will become more important than money, and it has. But what's happened is that these powerful intermediaries have captured all this data, and they're the ones that are getting benefit from it. And there's the obvious upshot of that is that we're leaving a digital a trail of crumbs as we go throughout life, creating these virtual images of each of us, virtual avatars. And the virtual you might know more about you than you do, because you can't remember what you bought or what you said or how you read an article a year ago. So our basic right to privacy, which is the foundation of a free society, is being undermined. And people who say privacy's dead, get over it, are just ignorant. They don't understand the importance of privacy to freedom. And then we have broader issues related to freedom that are very worrisome. Rights. Freedom of speech, of course, is being undermined as we move towards more of a surveillance society. Many countries have their own proprietary internet or this deep censorship. We have the rise of not just surveillance, but the undermining of rights in many other ways. That musicians, for for decades throughout the industrial age music industry, got a tiny proportion of the value they created. The internet came along and we hoped that there would be opportunities to improve that, but it got worse because between the labels and the musicians, now we've placed this huge technology industry of companies like Apple and Spotify that take a lot of the value as well. So the poor musicians, it's never been worse to be a songwriter or recording artist. So what if, rather than TCP/IP, which is a great device for, or set of protocols for the communication of information, what if, rather than an information protocol, we had a value protocol? What if we could establish trusted value exchange and value creation in a truly peer-to-peer way without powerful intermediaries, powerful corporations, governments, and so on in the middle? Well, you all know where I'm going with this. A platform that ensures trust without powerful forces. Call it the Trust Protocol, which is the title of my upcoming book that I've completed now with my son, Alex Tapscott. So, well, that to me is what's important. Now, in the book we talk about 10 huge transformations, and let me just talk about one of them to get you thinking. Throughout the industrial age, we had vertically integrated corporations. They did everything from soup to nuts. Henry Ford had, within the boundaries of the Ford Motor Company, a power plant, steel mill, glass factory, shipping company, had mahogany forests in Honduras to get the wood for his cars. Well, 80 years ago, a Nobel Prize-winning economist named Ronald Coase, C-O-A-S-E, wrote a deceptively simple paper. He asked this question: why do we have the firm? If Adam Smith is right and the open market's the best mechanism to determine how people and resources and capability and information and trust are syndicated and organized, why isn't everybody an independent actor at every step in the way in production? And he said the answer is, and he won a Nobel Prize for saying this, the answer is transaction costs. He said the costs of search, finding all the right information, the cost of coordination, of getting people to work together, the cost of contracting, if every little activity in the economy required a contract, just enforcing them alone would make it prohibitive, and the cost of establishing trust. So we brought all this capability inside the boundaries of a corporation. Well, along comes the Trust Protocol, and we've got a platform that radically drops these transaction costs. The costs of search. We'll see amazing capabilities emerging on how to search data and information on various blockchains. The cost of coordination. Well, this is about agency, and we bring people inside corporate boundaries because we have managers and agents, but what if we could have a whole set of business processes and of smart contracts that are enabled by the blockchain that radically drop those costs? That could be interesting. And then, of course, the cost of contracting. Well, again, blockchain-enabled smart contracts that have a payment system built into them could affect those costs big time. And then, of course, the cost of establishing trust, of showing that you're an organization that has honesty, you're considerate of the interests of other parties, you abide by your commitments, and you're transparent. All of those evaporate because trust is built into clever code. And it's achieved through mass collaboration, through the whole mining community. So this is beginning to and will inexorably lead to the biggest change in the deep structure and architecture of the corporation in a century. And there are all kinds of opportunities now to move towards new network models of the firm. And we talk about a lot of them in the new book, Micro-Monetizers, moving from a sharing economy, which didn't ever really exist, to a metering economy, new opportunities for service aggregators, opportunities to take capabilities like Airbnb and make them a distributed application where the the owners and renters of properties, and where the people who rent properties receive and exchange all of the value rather than a $25 billion corporation in the middle. So this is a time of unprecedented opportunity, and I'm so thankful that you're together coming to grips with these issues, struggling with them, because you may not know it, but you're part of a nascent and emerging, an embryonic governance network. Just like the internet itself is governed by a ragtag ecosystem that self-organizes, that creates standards, develops knowledge, and does advocacy and policy, and does a watchdog kind of capabilities. So there's an emerging governance network for the blockchain and digital currency ecosystem. So thank you. And I look forward to interacting with you face to face in some location in the world as we go forward. Have a great day.
Yes, sir.
And now we're going to hear from Bruce Schneier.
Hey, hi. Thanks for being here. I'm sorry I can't be here in person, but I want to talk to you a bit about security and cybercurrencies and Bitcoin. We know that cybercurrencies like Bitcoin are secured by mathematics. Cryptography protects against counterfeiting. The distributed ledger protects against double spending. And the idea is that governments are obsolete, that we just don't need them because the math protects the currency. The reality is a lot more complicated. It turns out that governments play an important role in securing financial systems, and there are risks when you try to take them out of the process. And the reason we all carry credit cards or use iPay is convenience. Not just convenience of the purchase process, but convenience when things go wrong. If your credit card is stolen and someone makes a fraudulent transaction in your name, you'll get your money back. But this doesn't happen with cash. If someone steals those pieces of paper, they've stolen the value and you have no recourse. Bitcoin is digital cash. And because cash is so easily stolen, we trust banks as safe places to store our money. But while banks are safer than holding our money under the mattress, they're still vulnerable to both bank robbers and fraud from the inside. Right? So we have deposit insurance, and we have legal rules that banks have to follow. And these protect us from thieving banks. They also protect us from theft. And a lot of these regulations are a result of bitter experience. And there's a reason why banking is so heavily regulated, and the loosening of those regulations is one of the main reasons banks almost crashed the world economy in 2008. And Bitcoin has no rules. There are no rules for Bitcoin exchanges. They're technically not banks, and they're unregulated. There are no minimum security standards that exchanges have to follow. There are no insurance requirements to protect customers. And more importantly, there are no license requirements that prevent a bank from acting irresponsibly with our money. And we've already seen a lot of hacks by and against exchanges. Bitcoin wallets are even worse. We've seen many attacks against wallets. We've seen lots of attacks against the computers that customers are using to store their wallets. Already there's malware that wanders around automatically looking for Bitcoins to steal. The problem is that both Bitcoin exchanges and Bitcoin wallets exist on computers, exist on networks, and those are on the internet. The Bitcoin thefts are not against the Bitcoin cryptography or mathematics. It's hackers breaking into the computers and networks and swiping the Bitcoins. And because they're like cash, possession equals ownership. I think this problem is only going to get worse. Willie Sutton famously said that he robbed banks because that's where the money is. The more popular Bitcoin becomes, the easier it will be to steal the coins and convert it to actual cash. In this arms race on the internet between attacker and defender, the attackers have the advantage. We know this everywhere. So we should expect more fraudulent Bitcoin exchanges, more malicious Bitcoin wallets, and even more advanced hacking attempts against both those exchanges and those wallets. But this problem actually isn't so easily solved. Cryptography is strong, but computer and network security have all sorts of weaknesses. And without standards and regulation, it's buyer beware. And without law enforcement, the results of a mistake can be catastrophic. I mean, the reason I use US currency is because I don't need to care about the security. I don't need to care about who prevents counterfeiting. I don't need to care about how the banks are arranged. I know it just works, and there's a government behind that backing it up. Right? The reason I use US banks is because I don't have to care about their security. Right now, the problem with Bitcoin is that it requires a more knowledgeable user. So I think there's definitely a future in Bitcoin. I think there's definitely a future in blockchain and distributed ways of authenticating, and for these cooperation systems that run from the ground up. But governments have a role here too. Governments have a role in society. Governments have a role in protecting us from fraud. Governments have a role in establishing minimum standards. And we need to remember that. I mean, it's easy to think of Bitcoin as the end of national specie currency, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Silence. I would say, as a lawyer, and many lawyers I think in the room would agree, there are laws that apply to Bitcoin exchanges, and actually you've seen a maturation of exchanges that want to build commercial partnerships. They want to protect their consumers. So you're seeing innovations like user-enabled audits, transparent balance sheets, cold storage practices. Pamela is working on security standards for key management to help safeguard individual uses of keys. So evolving space, and points well taken about role of government as well. Next we have Elaine Shi.
Hello, Hong Kong Blockchain Workshop, and thanks a lot to Primavera for inviting me to give this lightning video talk. I'm Elaine Shi. I'm an associate professor at Cornell University, and I'd like to quickly introduce our latest project, Hawk, which provides privacy-preserving smart contracts. This is joint work with my students and my colleagues at Cornell and UMD. Okay, as we all know, privacy is extremely important in financial transactions. For example, consider two companies that have an insurance contract in between them. And these companies may not wish the entire world to learn about the flow of money in between them. Unfortunately, too bad, if you are going to do this on top of today's blockchain, all the details of the transactions will be exposed directly. Okay, so can we get the best of both worlds? Can we execute contracts automatically on the blockchain and yet maintain the privacy of these financial transactions? Okay. The first quick idea is that we can encrypt our transactions on the blockchain, but this exposes new challenges, because how can the miners now run the smart contracts and verify the transactions, since now the transactions are encrypted? Okay, so it seems like these two goals are inherently conflicting with each other, but fortunately, modern cryptography comes to the rescue, and there are very powerful tools in modern cryptography that can essentially allow us to achieve the best of both worlds. And here is the high-level picture of one of these protocols. I won't explain the details of the protocol, but I would like to quickly point out that the main idea is that we would encrypt the transactions on the blockchain, and meanwhile use efficient zero-knowledge proofs to ensure the correct execution of the smart contracts. All right. So this is exactly what Hawk does. And what's really cool about Hawk is that we don't bother the developer to come up with the crypto. We basically take care of the crypto for you. And all you have to do is write a smart contract, pretty much in a way that you're familiar with. And our Hawk compiler can take this contract generate an efficient crypto protocol that ensures the privacy of transactions on the blockchain. Okay. And we are currently working very hard to crank out the first software release for Hawk, and please check back later on our website if you are interested. And before I conclude, I would like to mention this very cool initiative, the initiative on cyber currencies and contracts. And this is a joint effort between Cornell, Cornell Tech, and UC Berkeley. And we are currently developing industry partners. If you are interested, please do contact us. And thank you very much, and have fun at the Hong Kong Blockchain Workshop.
That's the great thing about problems in the space. There are lots of people that try very hard to solve them, and it helps us all evolve. Next up, we have Jutta Steiner. She's the security auditor, right, at Ethereum, and also building Provenance.
I would like to go a bit beyond the current scope of the conference and look with you at how blockchains can not only change the way how we work and operate in smart cities, but also how they can change the world of commerce and the way how we globally trade with each other. In that sense, I do believe that they will massively
Maybe we reload.
I'd like to go a bit beyond the current scope of the conference and look with you at how blockchains can not only change the way how we work and operate in smart cities, but also how they can change the world of commerce and the way how we globally trade with each other. In that sense, I do believe that they will massively accelerate a trend we've been already seeing in recent years. They will give us the opportunity to trade even more fluidly, more directly, and more transparently with each other. Together with other decentralized technologies, they can massively improve our global network of trade, commerce, settlements, and shipments. They will power smart cities, but hopefully in 5 minutes, you'll be convinced that the very same technology will power next level. Let's look at a few examples. Let's start with supply chains. Today, more often than not, the stories behind the consumer products that we buy remain very hidden in complex supply chains. Information about the origin and journey of the product is really more than marketing, and even worse, usually masks very sad truths. There are some startups that try to respond to this increased level of consumer awareness. There's a company, a startup called Provenance based here in London, that's trying to build a platform to create and make product stories accessible. Building kind of a product Facebook that helps you pick the right product based on your ethical preferences. But with conventional technology, Provenance also eventually just risks ending up being yet another data middleman, just like Facebook. However, with blockchains, what if we could actually verify the organic certificate that a product comes with? What if blockchains enabled like a product passport that allows us to check the identity of the coffee farmer? If child labor and slavery could not be hidden anymore in the vast garment supply chain networks of fast fashion? What if you knew exactly where the extra pound that you paid for in the shop for the fair trade chocolate, where this extra pound went to? Let's look at another example. You might have met Trent by now, the founder of Ascribe. Besides, he has been on a mission to fix the management of IP, in particular for digital art, to eventually build an ownership layer to help artists derive a living from their work. Being able to track assets will be the basis for more fluid, more transparent, and more fair trade. Let's look at another example. Let's look at global trade and trade finance. Over the centuries, we've been very inventive and used various tools like letters of credit and bank guarantees to mitigate the risks that come with dealing with unknown parties, to enable seamless commerce and remove friction related to the lack of trust. A few years ago, SWIFT, an organization that many of you might know, has started building a digital platform to better manage risk and create liquidity all along the supply chains. Yet, again, with traditional technology, they risk ending up just leading to marginal improvement. On the consumer side, there are further examples. Startups like Affirm are trying to give more power to underserved citizens, like students, that so far do not have the power to leverage the credit scoring system. Similar efforts are being made to help small and medium enterprises to leverage their good credit history to get better settlement terms. But again, a firm's vision would hugely benefit from the power that blockchains can bring, this additional level of authenticity and transparency. Since I joined the Ethereum team last year, I've been working with various projects to explore the potential of blockchains in trade. They will lead to more liquid and open markets, reducing the barriers to entry by overcoming the hurdle of trust between organizations and individuals. Ethereum's blockchain has often been celebrated as the most advanced blockchain technology to date, but there's still much room for improvement. And while the Ethereum Foundation will continue to curate and educate the technology, I'm very excited to continue working with the core team, Gavin Wood, Vitalik Buterin, Aaron Buchanan, Karen Kepler, to keep Ethereum smart blockchain technology at the cutting edge, and to further develop and exploit new wave decentralized internet technology. However, what will it take to realize this potential and deliver on all the promises? We need to understand better use cases for public or private, permissioned or open, bespoke or general, in order to develop the required technology. We must remember that realizing the full potential, we need a full spectrum of solutions, and the advantages from interactions between platforms running on a smart blockchain grow exponentially. Let me finish by borrowing from John Donne. No city is an island, not even the smartest one. A smart city will multiply its benefits by being able to link to anywhere else in the world using global smart blockchains. So even though I can't make it in person, I hope you get in touch after this talk and after this conference so we can get into a conversation about this exciting topic. So for now, I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye.
And you'll be able to meet some of these speakers in person at our Sydney blockchain workshops, which is going to be December 7th to 11th in Sydney this year. And also on the issue of trust, which both Dawn and Bruce touched upon, Vitalik actually has written a really excellent article on the role the blockchain's played in trust and its advantages and disadvantages over traditional financial institutions. So obviously this space is, moving very fast. It might be dated, but worth a read.
Thank you. We're done with this section? Yeah. Great. So can we just move on to the next section?